The morning Selena Thorne scrubbed blood from the trading post floor. She decided that dying might be preferable to another year of this existence. But the contract hanging above Jacob Harker's desk said she owed him 4 more years of servitude for a debt her dead father had left behind. The year was 1877, and Bentonville, Arkansas, sat at the edge of what some folks still called the frontier, a town where the railroad had brought prosperity to merchants like Harker while grinding people like Selena into dust beneath its wheels. She was 22 years old, though she felt ancient, her hands raw from lye soap and her back aching from hauling crates that seemed to grow heavier with each passing season. The blood belonged to a trapper who had gotten into a knife fight the previous evening, and Harker had made it clear that if the stains remained visible, he would add another month to her contract for failing to maintain his establishment properly. The trading post stood on the main road through Bentonville, a sprawling building that served as general store, saloon, and the closest thing to a bank for 50 miles in any direction. Harker controlled most of the commerce flowing through this part of Arkansas, and he wore his power like other men wore their Sunday clothes, constantly on display and carefully maintained. He was 53, thick around the middle, with calculating eyes that tracked every transaction and every person who entered his domain. When he called Selena his indentured servant, he said it with a proprietary satisfaction that made her skin crawl, as though owning another person's labor for a debt was something to take pride in rather than shame. "You missed a spot," Harker said from behind the counter, not bothering to look up from his ledger. "Near the stove." Selena bit back the response that wanted to escape and moved her scrub brush to the indicated area. The contract had been her father's doing, though he had been too drunk most of the time to understand what he was signing. Samuel Thorne had borrowed money from Harker to keep his small farm going through a bad winter, and when he died of pneumonia 6 months later, the debt had transferred to his only child. Selena had been 18 when Harker presented her with the contract, explaining with false sympathy that she could work off the debt at the trading post, or he could seize the farm and leave her with nothing. She had signed, not understanding that the interest Harker charged meant the debt grew faster than her labor could reduce it. The door swung open, letting in a blast of September heat and a man Selena had never seen before. He was tall, lean in the way of men who spent more time in the saddle than anywhere else, with dark hair that needed cutting and eyes the color of weathered oak. His clothes were dusty from travel, but his boots were good quality, and the gun on his hip sat in a holster that had been worn smooth by use. He moved with the easy confidence of someone who knew exactly what he was capable of and felt no need to prove it. "Help you?" Harker's tone shifted immediately to the obsequious friendliness he reserved for customers who looked like they had money. "Need supplies for a week on the trail," the man said. His voice was deep, with an accent that suggested he had come from further west, maybe Colorado or Wyoming. "And information, if you have it. Looking for land around here suitable for horses." "Owen Mitchell, at your service," Harker said, extending his hand across the counter. Selena almost laughed at the blatant lie. Harker's first name was Jacob, and his last name certainly was not Mitchell. But the stranger did not know that, and he shook the offered hand with a brief nod. "Owen McCrae," the cowboy said. Selena felt something shift in the air, a strange crackling tension as the two men sized each other up. She continued scrubbing, trying to make herself invisible the way she had learned to do over the past 4 years. Being noticed by Harker rarely led to anything good. "Horse ranch, you said." Harker's eyes gleamed with the particular light that meant he sensed an opportunity. "Plenty of good land around here," Some of it might be available for the right price. You have capital to invest. Owen McCrae's gaze flickered to Selena for just a moment, and she felt the weight of his attention like a physical thing. Then he returned his focus to Harker. I have what I need. First, supplies. Then we can talk about land. For the next 20 minutes, Selena listened as Owen rattled off a list of items and Harker calculated prices with his usual skill at extracting maximum profit. She finished with the floor and moved to restocking shelves, trying not to be obvious about watching the newcomer. There was something about him that felt different from the usual run of cowboys and drifters who passed through Bentonville. He carried himself with authority, but it was not the cruel kind that Harker wielded, more like someone who had earned respect rather than demanded it. The girl will pack your supplies, Harker said when the transaction was complete. Selena, get to it. Selena flinched at the dismissive tone but moved to comply. She gathered flour, coffee, salt pork, beans, and the other items Owen had requested, packing them efficiently into saddlebags. Her hands moved with practiced speed, and she was aware of Owen watching her work with an expression she could not quite read. You are very efficient, Owen said quietly, speaking directly to her for the first time. Thank you, sir, Selena replied, keeping her voice neutral. Harker did not like her talking to customers beyond what was necessary for transactions. How long have you worked here? The question was casual, but something in his tone made Selena look up. Owen's eyes were steady on hers, and she saw no judgment there, only curiosity and perhaps something else. Concern, maybe. 4 years, she said. That is a long time in one place. I have a contract, Selena said, the words tasting bitter. I cannot leave. Selena. Harker's voice cracked across the room like a whip. Stop bothering the customer and finish your work. She ducked her head and quickly completed the packing. When she handed the saddlebags to Owen, their fingers brushed for just a moment, and she felt a jolt of something that might have been electricity if such a thing could pass between two people. Owen's expression did not change, but his eyes lingered on her face for a heartbeat longer than necessary. Thank you, he said, his voice gentle. Selena nodded and retreated to the back of the store, but she could feel his gaze following her. She busied herself with inventory, trying to ignore the conversation continuing between Owen and Harker about land prices and water rights. When the door finally closed behind the cowboy, she felt a strange sense of loss, as though something important had just walked out of her life before she even knew what it was. Get over here, Harker commanded. Selena approached the counter warily. Harker was studying her with the calculating look that made her stomach clench with anxiety. That man was interested in you, Harker said flatly. I saw how he looked at you. I did not encourage anything, Selena said quickly. I just packed his supplies like you told me to. Good. Because you belong to me until that debt is paid, and I will not have you running off with some drifter who thinks a pretty face is worth more than an honest contract. Harker pulled the document from its place on the wall behind his desk and laid it on the counter. See this. This is legal and binding. You owe me $3,247. At your current rate of work, that means 4 more years, maybe 3 if you work extra hard, and I am feeling generous. Selena stared at the numbers, feeling the familiar despair settle over her like a heavy blanket. When she had first signed, the debt had been $800. The fact that it had grown so much, despite 4 years of labor, told her everything she needed to know about Harker's generosity. But what could she do? She had no money, no family, nowhere to go. The contract was legal, witnessed by the town mayor who was Harker's cousin. No one would help her. I understand, she whispered. Good. Now get upstairs and clean the private rooms. I have guests coming tonight, and I expect everything to be spotless. Selena climbed the narrow stairs to the second floor where Harker rented rooms to travelers and conducted his less public business dealings. She cleaned mechanically, her mind replaying the brief interaction with Owen McCrae. Something about him had felt different, like a glimpse of a world beyond this endless cycle of work and debt. But that was foolish thinking. He was just passing through, like everyone else, and she would probably never see him again. She was wrong. Owen returned the next morning, and the morning after that. He seemed to be in no hurry to move on, and he spent his time talking to Harker about land and asking questions about the area. Selena tried to ignore him, but it was impossible not to be aware of his presence. He watched her when he thought she was not looking, and sometimes she caught him frowning at the way Harker spoke to her, as though he was working out a complicated problem in his head. On the fourth day, Owen arrived just after dawn, before the store was officially open. Selena was sweeping the front porch when she heard his boots on the wooden steps. "Morning," he said. "Good morning, sir," Selena replied, keeping her eyes on her broom. "You do not have to call me sir. Owen is fine. Mr. Harker prefers I maintain formality with customers." "Mr. Harker is not here yet," Owen pointed out. He leaned against the porch railing, blocking her path in a way that was not quite aggressive but made it clear he wanted to talk. "How did you end up working for him?" Selena hesitated. Every instinct told her to deflect, to give the standard answer about being grateful for the employment opportunity. But something in Owen's face made her want to tell the truth. "My father borrowed money from him. When my father died, the debt became mine. I signed a contract to work it off." "How much was the original debt?" $800. Owen's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "And how much is it now?" "Over 3,000. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken words. Owen stared at her with an intensity that made her nervous, and she saw anger flicker across his face before he controlled it. "That is not legal," he said finally. "Debt bondage was outlawed in Arkansas years ago. The contract says it is legal. It is signed and witnessed." "By whom?" "The mayor. He is Mr. Harker's cousin." Owen made a sound that might have been a laugh or a curse. "Of course he is." He was quiet for a moment, then asked, "What would you do if you were free?" The question caught Selena off guard. She had stopped letting herself think about freedom years ago because the hoping hurt too much. But now, with this stranger asking her directly, the answer came tumbling out before she could stop it. "I would leave. I would go somewhere new and find honest work. Maybe save enough to buy a little piece of land. Nothing fancy. Just enough for a garden and a few chickens. I would wake up in the morning and know that the day was mine, that I was working for myself and not to pay off a debt that grows faster than I can shrink it." She stopped, horrified at how much she had revealed. "I apologize. That was inappropriate." "No," Owen said softly. "That was honest, and there is nothing wrong with wanting those things." The door opened behind them and Harker emerged, his eyes immediately narrowing as he took in the scene on the porch. "Selena, why are you standing around talking instead of working? Get inside and start breakfast." "Yes, Mr. Harker," Selena murmured, slipping past both men and into the relative safety of the trading post. Through the window, she watched Owen and Harker talk. Their body language was stiff, formal, and she could tell the conversation was not friendly even though she could not hear the words. After a few minutes, Owen left and Harker came inside with a thunderous expression. "What did he ask you?" Harker demanded. "Just how I came to work here," Selena said carefully. "And what did you tell him? The truth? About my father's debt and the contract?" Harker studied her face for a long moment, and Selena forced herself to meet his gaze without flinching. Finally, he nodded. "Fine. Just remember what I said about not getting ideas. That cowboy will be gone soon enough and you will still be here, working off what you owe." But Owen did not leave. Instead, he rented one of the upstairs rooms, claiming he needed time to scout the area properly before making any decisions about land. Selena saw him every day, and each interaction was brief, but charged with unspoken meaning. He asked her small questions about her life, her preferences, her thoughts on things. No one had cared about her opinions in years, and she found herself looking forward to these stolen moments of conversation. 2 weeks after Owen's arrival, everything changed. It was late afternoon, and the trading post was empty except for Selena and Harker. She was behind the counter, updating inventory records, when Owen walked in with a purposeful stride that immediately put her on alert. "Harker," Owen said, "I want to discuss a business transaction." "I am always interested in business," Harker replied, setting down the newspaper he had been reading. "What did you have in mind?" "I want to buy Selena Thorne's contract." The words hung in the air like smoke. Selena's hand froze on the ledger, her heart suddenly pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. "That is not for sale," Harker said flatly. "Everything is for sale," Owen countered. "You are a businessman, name your price." Harker's face flushed with anger. "The girl owes me over $3,000. Her labor is worth more than that over the next 4 years. Why would I sell her contract? Because I am offering you $4,000 in cash, right now, today." Owen pulled a leather pouch from his coat and set it on the counter with a heavy thunk. "That is $1,000 profit for you, plus you will not have to feed and house her anymore. Pure profit." Selena could not breathe. $4,000. That was a fortune. Where had a cowboy gotten that kind of money? Harker stared at the pouch, and Selena could see the calculation happening behind his eyes. He was greedy, but he was also vindictive, and she knew he took pleasure in having power over her. "No," Harker said finally. "I do not care what you are offering. She stays." "5,000, Owen said immediately. "Final offer." "I said no." Harker's voice rose. "She is my property until the debt is satisfied, and I will decide when that is. Now get out of my store before I have you removed." Owen's hand moved toward his gun, not drawing it but resting on the grip in a way that was unmistakable. "You do not own people, Harker. That ended with the war. What you have is an illegal contract built on fraud and usury, and if I take this to a federal judge, you will be the one in chains, not her." "You threatening me?" Harker reached under the counter, and Selena knew he kept a shotgun there. "I am offering you a way out," Owen said, his voice cold and steady. "Take the money, tear up the contract, and we all walk away, or I go to Fort Smith and bring back a federal marshal to investigate your business practices. Your choice." The tension in the room was suffocating. Selena pressed herself against the shelves, trying to make herself small, while the two men faced off like bulls about to charge. She could see Harker's hand tightening on whatever weapon he had grabbed, and for a horrible moment she thought violence was inevitable. Then Harker laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "You do not have the connections to bring a federal marshal here, and even if you did, the mayor and half the town council owe me money or favors. You are just some drifter with more money than sense, probably stolen money at that." "Try me," Owen said softly. "See what happens." The standoff continued for what felt like an eternity. Finally, with a curse, Harker released whatever he was holding under the counter and grabbed the leather pouch. He opened it, checking the contents, and Selena saw his expression shift as he counted the gold coins inside. "Fine," Harker spat. $5,000 for the contract and the girl, but I want it in writing that this settles all debts and she is never to set foot in this establishment again." "Agreed," Owen said. "Write it up." Harker pulled out paper and pen and began scratching out a bill of sale with angry, jerky movements. Selena watched in disbelief as he detailed the transaction, stating that, for the sum of $5,000, he was selling Selena Thorne's contract of indenture to Owen McCrae, along with all rights and obligations therein. When he finished, he shoved the paper across the counter along with the original contract. "Sign here," Harker demanded. Owen read the documents carefully, then pulled out a pen and signed his name in bold, confident strokes. He picked up both pieces of paper, folded them, and put them in his pocket. Then he turned to Selena. "Get your things," he said gently. "You are leaving." Selena could not move. Her mind was spinning, trying to process what had just happened. Owen had bought her contract. He owned her debt now. She had simply traded one master for another. "I said get your things," Owen repeated, and there was something in his voice that finally broke through her paralysis. "I do not have things," she whispered. "Just a few clothes upstairs. Then get them, quickly." Selena ran up the stairs on shaking legs, her mind a chaos of fear and hope and confusion. She grabbed the small bundle of her possessions, everything she owned in the world fitting into a single worn carpetbag, and rushed back down. Harker was glaring at Owen with such hatred that Selena feared he might still do something violent, but Owen seemed unconcerned, standing relaxed and ready in the center of the room. "Let us go," Owen said when she appeared. They walked out of the trading post together, and Selena felt like she was in a dream. The afternoon sun was bright after the dimness inside, and she blinked against the glare as Owen led her down the street to a small hotel. "Wait here," he instructed, guiding her to a chair in the lobby. "I will be right back." Selena sat, clutching her carpetbag, watching as Owen went outside. Through the window, she saw him walk to the edge of the street, pull the folded papers from his pocket, and do something that made her heart stop. He tore them up. He ripped the bill of sale and her contract of indenture into small pieces and let them flutter away on the breeze like confetti. Then he walked back inside with a slight smile on his face. "There," he said. "Now you are free." Selena stared at him, unable to comprehend what she was seeing. "But you paid $5,000. "I did." "And you just destroyed the contract." "I did." "But why?" The question came out as a near wail. "You could have kept me working for you to pay back the debt. Why would you just tear it up?" Owen crouched down in front of her chair so they were at eye level. His weathered oak eyes were kind, and when he spoke, his voice was gentle. "Because no one should be owned, Selena. Not for debt, not for any reason. That contract was a chain around your neck, and now it is gone. You do not owe me anything. You are free to go wherever you want, do whatever you want. You are your own person." Tears spilled down Selena's cheeks before she could stop them. 4 years of suppressed emotion came pouring out in great, gasping sobs that shook her whole body. Owen produced a handkerchief and pressed it into her hands, then sat quietly while she cried, not trying to stop her or offer false comfort, just being present. When she finally managed to get control of herself, Selena wiped her face and looked at this stranger who had just changed her entire life. "I do not understand," she said hoarsely. "Why would you do this for me? You do not even know me." "I know enough," Owen said. "I know you have been trapped and exploited by a man who saw you as property instead of a person. I know you deserved better than that. As for why," he paused, seeming to choose his words carefully, "let us just say I have seen what happens when good people get caught in bad situations, and I have the means to help. So I did. Where did you get $5,000? The question was bold, maybe too bold, but Selena needed to understand. Owen smiled slightly. "I was a cattle rancher in Wyoming, built up a good operation over 10 years, then sold it for a profit when I decided it was time to move on. I came to Arkansas looking for land to start a horse ranch because I have always preferred horses to cattle. That money in that pouch is part of what I got from the sale. I was going to use it to buy land, but this seemed like a better investment." "I am not an investment," Selena said softly. "No," Owen agreed. "You are a person who deserved freedom. There is a difference." They sat in silence for a moment, and Selena tried to wrap her mind around this new reality. She was free, actually free. The concept was so foreign after 4 years of bondage that it felt unreal. "What do I do now?" she asked finally. "Whatever you want," Owen said. "You mentioned wanting to leave Bentonville. I can give you money for a stage ticket to wherever you want to go. Or if you want to stay here and look for work, I can help you find something honest. Your choice." Selena thought about the future she had described on Harker's porch. A little piece of land, a garden, chickens, waking up free. It had seemed like an impossible dream then, but now, with Owen McCrae looking at her with those steady eyes, it felt like it might actually be within reach. "I do not know where to go," she admitted. "I have been in Bentonville my whole life. I do not know anywhere else." "Then stay for a while," Owen suggested. "Get your bearings. There is no rush." "I cannot stay at the trading post," Selena said quickly. "Harker will not allow it." "You will stay here at the hotel. I will pay for a room for you until you decide what you want to do." "I cannot let you spend more money on me," Selena protested. "You already spent $5,000. "Selena," Owen said, and the way he said her name made her look at him. "I can afford it. Please, let me do this. Consider it payment for all the information you are going to give me about land around here. You grew up in this area, you know things I do not. That is valuable." It was a flimsy excuse and they both knew it, but Selena was too overwhelmed to argue. She nodded, and Owen stood, offering her his hand. She took it, and he pulled her gently to her feet. "Let us get you settled," he said. Over the next week, Selena slowly began to believe that her freedom was real. Owen rented her a small but clean room at the hotel and made sure she had meals. He asked nothing of her except her company, and they spent hours talking about the area, about land and water and which parcels might be suitable for horses. Selena found herself opening up to him in ways she had not opened up to anyone in years, sharing stories about her childhood, her father before the drinking got bad, her dreams for a future she had thought was impossible. Owen, in turn, told her about his life. He was 30 years old, born in Missouri but raised in Colorado after his parents joined a wagon train west when he was 5. He had worked cattle ranches since he was 14, learning everything there was to know about livestock and land management. He had built his own operation from nothing, buying a small plot with money he had saved and slowly expanding it through careful breeding and smart business decisions. When a bigger outfit offered him a significant sum for his land and cattle, he had taken it, deciding it was time for a change. "Why horses instead of cattle?" Selena asked one evening as they sat on the hotel porch, watching the sun set over Bentonville. "Cattle are money," Owen said. "But horses are poetry. They have personality, intelligence. Each one is different. I have always loved working with them more than cattle. And there is a good market for quality horses, especially now with the railroad expanding. People need reliable mounts." "You really know what you want," Selena said, and there was a wistfulness in her voice. "You do too," Owen pointed out. "You told me, land, a garden, freedom." "That was a fantasy. It does not have to be." Owen turned to look at her, and the evening light made his eyes appear almost golden. "Selena, I have been thinking. I am going to need help getting the horse ranch started. I will need someone who knows the area, who can help manage the household side of things while I focus on the horses. It would be honest work, fair wages, and you would have a place to live." Selena's heart began to pound. You are offering me a job. I am offering you a partnership. Not in the legal sense, not yet anyway, but in the practical sense. You help me build this ranch, and in return you get a home, a salary, and when the time is right, we can discuss you having an actual stake in the operation. Why would you do that? Selena asked, the question that seemed to come up again and again with Owen. Because I like you, Owen said simply. Because in the past week I have come to respect your intelligence and your strength. Because I think we could work well together. And because, he paused, then continued more softly, because when I look at you, I see someone worth taking a chance on. There was something in the way he said it that made Selena's breath catch. She had been trying not to think about the way her heart sped up when Owen was near, the way she found herself watching him when she thought he was not looking. He had saved her, given her freedom, and she was grateful. But gratitude was not the same as the strange, warm feeling that bloomed in her chest when he smiled at her. I would like that, she said quietly. I would like to help you build your ranch. Owen's smile was like sunrise. Good, then it is settled. They found land 2 weeks later, a beautiful stretch of property about 5 miles outside Bentonville with good water access and natural grazing areas. Owen purchased it outright, and they began the work of building. He hired local workers to construct a house, a barn, and fencing for pastures, and Selena threw herself into the project with an enthusiasm she had not felt in years. She helped design the house, making sure it had a good kitchen and windows that would let in light. She planned the garden she had dreamed about, marking out where she would plant vegetables and herbs. Working alongside Owen every day, Selena found herself falling for him in ways that terrified and exhilarated her. He was kind, patient, funny when he let his guard down. He treated her as an equal, asking her opinion on decisions and listening when she spoke. When she made mistakes, he did not berate her but showed her how to do things better. And there were moments, small ones, when their hands would brush or their eyes would meet, and Selena would feel that electric connection that had sparked the first time they touched. She tried to tell herself it was foolish. Owen had saved her out of decency, not because he had romantic feelings for her. He probably saw her as a charity case, someone to be helped, and then moved past. But her heart did not seem to care about logic. One evening in early November, they were working late to finish the barn before the weather turned. The structure was mostly complete, and they were organizing the interior space, deciding where to put tack and feed. Owen was up in the loft, arranging hay bales, when his foot slipped and he fell. Selena screamed and ran to him. He had fallen about 8 feet and landed hard on his left side. For a horrible moment he just lay there, stunned, and Selena knelt beside him with her hands hovering uselessly, afraid to touch him in case something was broken. Owen, talk to me, are you hurt? Her voice was shaking. Owen groaned and slowly pushed himself up to a sitting position, his face twisted with pain. I think I am all right, just knock the wind out of me. Do not move, Selena commanded. Let me check for breaks. She ran her hands carefully over his arms and legs, the way she had seen the town doctor do, once when a farmer had been thrown from his horse. Owen watched her face as she worked, and when she looked up to tell him she did not think anything was broken, she found him staring at her with an intensity that stole her breath. You were scared, he said softly. Of course I was scared. You could have broken your neck. But you were scared for me specifically, not just scared of losing help with the ranch. Selena sat back on her heels, her heart racing. What are you saying? I am saying, Owen reached out and gently touched her cheek, that I have been trying to be honorable. You went through hell with Harker, and I did not want you to feel like I saved you just to take advantage. But Selena, I cannot keep pretending that I only see you as a business partner. What do you see me as? The question came out as barely a whisper. As the woman I think about first thing in the morning and last thing at night. As someone who makes me laugh and challenges me and inspires me. As someone I am falling in love with, if I am being honest. Selena felt tears prick her eyes, but these were different from the tears she had cried in the hotel. These were tears of joy, of relief, of wonder that this good man could feel the same way she did. "I love you too," she said, the words tumbling out in a rush. "I have been trying not to because I thought it was impossible, but I do. I love you." Owen pulled her to him, mindless of his bruised ribs, and kissed her. It was gentle and fierce all at once, a kiss that held all the emotion they had been holding back for weeks. Selena melted into him, her hands coming up to tangle in his hair, and for a long, perfect moment there was nothing in the world except the two of them and this feeling. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Owen rested his forehead against hers. "I want to do this right," he said. "I want to court you properly, take my time, let you be sure." "I am sure," Selena said firmly. "I have never been more sure of anything." "Still," Owen smiled, "humor me. Let me take you to dinner in town, buy you flowers. All the things a man is supposed to do when he is courting a woman he loves." "All right," Selena agreed, feeling like her heart might burst from happiness. "You can court me, but Owen, I already know how this ends. I choose you. I will always choose you." The courtship was everything Selena had never dared to dream about. Owen took her to the nicest restaurant in Bentonville, a place she had never been allowed to enter when she worked for Harker. He bought her flowers, not just once but every week, filling the house they were building with the scent of chrysanthemums and late-blooming roses. He held her hand when they walked together and stole kisses when they thought no one was looking. The house was completed in December, just as the first real cold snap hit Arkansas. It was not a mansion, but it was solid and warm, with a big kitchen, a comfortable parlor, and 3 bedrooms upstairs. Selena moved into one of the bedrooms, and Owen took another, and they maintained the proprieties even though they both knew where their relationship was heading. On Christmas Eve, Owen asked Selena to take a walk with him despite the cold. They bundled up in coats and scarves and walked out to the spot where Selena's garden would go in the spring, currently just a patch of frozen earth. "I know this is fast," Owen said, his breath forming clouds in the cold air. "We have only known each other for 4 months. But I am 30 years old, Selena, and I have never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. You are my partner, my best friend, the person I want to wake up next to every morning for the rest of my life." He pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it, revealing a simple gold ring with a single small diamond. "Selena Thorne, will you marry me?" Selena looked at the ring, at Owen's hopeful face, at the land they had built together, and felt a joy so complete it almost hurt. "Yes," she said. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Owen slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her, and Selena thought that if she died right then, she would die happy. 4 months ago she had been scrubbing blood off a floor, trapped in a life she thought would never change. Now she was free, engaged to a man who loved her, standing on land that would be her home. They were married in February of 1878 in a simple ceremony at the Bentonville church. Selena wore a dress she had sewn herself, pale blue with ivory lace, and Owen wore his best suit. There were not many guests, just a few of the workers who had helped build the ranch and some townspeople who had befriended Selena over the past months. Notably absent was anyone connected to Harker, though Selena heard through the grapevine that he was not pleased about the marriage. The wedding night was gentle and sweet, Owen taking his time to show Selena how much he loved her. She had been nervous, her only experience with men being the rough, crude behavior she had witnessed at the trading post, But Owen was patient and tender, making sure she felt safe and cherished. They lay together afterward in the big bed in what was now their shared room, and Selena traced the lines of Owen's face with her fingers, marveling at how her life had changed. "You ever regret it?" she asked softly. "Spending all that money to buy my freedom? You could have used it to buy more land or better horses." "Never," Owen said firmly. "Not for 1 second. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Selena. The money was nothing compared to having you in my life." "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too, forever." The next year was the happiest of Selena's life. The ranch thrived as Owen bought horses and began the careful work of breeding and training. He had a gift for it, a patience and intuition that the horses responded to. Selena managed the household and the business side of things, keeping books and handling sales. They made a good team, their strengths complementing each other perfectly. In the summer of 1878, Selena realized she was pregnant. She told Owen one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, the same way they had on so many evenings. "I am going to have a baby," she said simply. Owen stared at her for a moment, then let out a whoop of joy and picked her up, spinning her around until she was dizzy and laughing. He set her down carefully, his hands on her stomach as though he could already feel the life growing there. "A baby," he said wonderingly. "We are going to have a baby." "Are you happy?" Selena asked, even though she could see the answer on his face. "Happy does not even begin to cover it," Owen said. "Selena, you have given me everything. A home, a purpose, love, and now a child. I am the luckiest man alive." Their son was born in March of 1879, a healthy baby with Owen's dark hair and Selena's blue eyes. They named him Oliver Samuel McCrae, the middle name honoring Selena's father despite his flaws. Holding her son for the first time, Selena thought about how close she had come to never having this. If Owen had not walked into that trading post, if he had not cared enough to do something, she would still be trapped in servitude, her life slowly grinding away under Harker's thumb. "Thank you," she whispered to Owen as he sat beside her on the bed, one arm around her shoulders while they both gazed at their son. "For what?" Owen asked. "For seeing me, for saving me, for loving me." "You saved yourself," Owen said gently. "You survived 4 years of hell and came out of it with your spirit intact. I just gave you the means to escape. Everything else, everything we have built, that is because of your strength and courage." Selena leaned her head on his shoulder, feeling completely content. Oliver made a small sound, and they both laughed, already utterly captivated by this tiny person they had created together. The years that followed were full of the normal joys and struggles of building a life together. The ranch grew steadily, Owen's reputation for quality horses spreading throughout Arkansas and beyond. Selena expanded her garden until it was large enough to feed them and provide surplus to sell in town. They had 2 more children, a daughter named Sarah in 1881 and another son named James in 1883. Through it all, Selena never forgot where she had come from. When she saw people struggling, she helped when she could, remembering what it felt like to be trapped with no way out. She and Owen became known in the community as fair, honest people, the kind of folks you could count on in a crisis. Harker's trading post slowly declined over the years. Without Selena's labor, and with his unethical practices becoming more widely known, he lost business to newer, more honest establishments. By 1885, he sold the trading post and left Bentonville, and Selena felt a grim satisfaction at his departure. He had tried to own her, to reduce her to property, and in the end it was his cruelty that had driven him out. On their 10th wedding anniversary in 1888, Owen and Selena sat on the porch of their home, watching their children play in the yard. Oliver was 9, responsible and serious like his father. Sarah was 7, bright and curious. James was 5, always getting into mischief. The ranch was prosperous, the horses healthy, the future bright. "You remember the day we met?" Owen asked, taking Selena's hand. "Every detail," Selena said. "You walked into that trading post and something inside me just knew you were important. I did not know how yet, but I knew. I took one look at you scrubbing that floor, saw the way Harker treated you, and felt this righteous anger," Owen said. "I knew I had to do something. I could not just walk away." "You changed my life," Selena said softly. "You gave me everything." "We gave each other everything," Owen corrected. "You gave me a home, a family, a reason to be better than I was. I was just a rancher with money before I met you. Now I am a husband, a father, a man with a real purpose." "I love you," Selena said, the same words she had said 1,000 times but which never lost their meaning. "I love you too," Owen replied, kissing her hand. "Forever and always." As the sun set over their land, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Selena reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From indentured servant to beloved wife and mother, from trapped and desperate to free and fulfilled. It had started with a cowboy walking into a trading post and seeing a woman instead of property, with an act of decency that had cost him money but gained him everything that mattered. The contract was long gone, torn to pieces and scattered on the wind. But the love it had unexpectedly led to remained, growing stronger with each passing year. Selena Thorne had been called an indentured servant, but Owen McCrae had seen her truth. He had bought her contract and torn it up, giving her the freedom to choose her own path. And she had chosen him, chosen this life, chosen love. It was the best decision she had ever made. The years continued to unfold with the gentle rhythm of ranch life. By 1890, Oliver was 11 and showing a remarkable aptitude for working with the horses, often spending hours in the barn with Owen, learning the subtleties of training and breeding. Sarah had developed a love for cooking and was constantly experimenting with recipes. Much to Selena's delight and occasionally to the family's dismay when an experiment went particularly wrong. James, true to his mischievous nature, kept everyone on their toes with his endless energy and creative pranks. One afternoon in the spring of 1890, Selena was working in her garden when a woman approached the ranch. She was young, maybe 19 or 20, with a bruised face and clothes that had seen better days. She walked with the hesitant steps of someone who expected to be turned away. "Excuse me, madam," the woman said quietly. "I heard in town that you sometimes hire help. I can cook, clean, work hard. I will take any wage you can offer." Selena straightened from her planting, studying the young woman. She saw something familiar in the desperate hope in the girl's eyes, a reflection of her own past. "What is your name?" Selena asked gently. "Anna. Anna Porter." "Where are you coming from, Anna?" The girl hesitated, then said, "I was working at a saloon in Fort Smith. The owner said I owed him for room and board, and the debt kept growing. I ran away last week. I walked most of the way here." Selena's heart clenched. She knew this story. She had lived this story. "Come inside," Selena said. "Let us get you fed and cleaned up, then we can talk about work." She brought Anna into the house and prepared a meal while the girl washed up. When Owen came in from the barn, Selena explained the situation quietly. His face darkened as he listened, the same righteous anger she had seen 12 years ago flickering in his eyes. "We will help her," Owen said without hesitation. "We have the means, and it is the right thing to do." They gave Anna a job and a room, asking only that she help Selena with household tasks and the children. The girl was overwhelmed by their kindness, crying when Selena told her she would receive fair wages with no debt attached. "I do not understand," Anna said. "Why are you being so kind to me? You do not even know me." Selena shared her own story then, about Harker and the contract, about Owen walking into that trading post and changing everything. Anna listened with wide eyes, and when Selena finished, the girl was crying again, but these were tears of hope rather than despair. "People like you and Mr. McCrae, you are rare," Anna said. "Most folks would have turned me away." "Most folks have never been where you are," Selena replied. "But I have. And I swore that if I ever had the chance to help someone the way Owen helped me, I would do it." Anna became part of their household, and over time, she healed from whatever trauma she had endured in Fort Smith. She was wonderful with the children, patient and kind, and Selena came to think of her almost as a younger sister. 2 years later, Anna met a young farmer at church and fell in love. They married in 1892, and Owen and Selena gave her a generous dowry, enough to help the newlyweds buy their own land. "You have done so much for me," Anna said through tears on her wedding day. "I can never repay you." "You do not need to repay us," Selena said, adjusting Anna's veil. "Just be happy. Build a good life with your husband, and if you ever see someone who needs help the way you did, help them. That is how kindness spreads." The incident with Anna reminded Selena how fortunate she was, but it also gave her a sense of purpose beyond her family. She began to pay more attention to the people in Bentonville who were struggling, and she and Owen quietly helped when they could. They paid off a widow's debt at the general store. They bought a young man a horse so he could take a job on a ranch outside town. They did these things without fanfare, not seeking recognition, just trying to make their corner of the world a little better. In 1895, when Selena was 39 and Owen was 47, they celebrated another milestone. Oliver, now 16, had been accepted to study veterinary medicine in Little Rock. It was a significant opportunity, and both Selena and Owen were proud, though Selena cried for a week before he left, overwhelmed by the thought of her firstborn so far away. "He will be fine," Owen assured her, holding her close. "We raised him right. He is smart and capable, and he will make a good life for himself." "I know," Selena said, wiping her eyes. "I am just being foolish. It is hard to let go." "It is not foolish, it is love." Owen kissed the top of her head. "And we still have Sarah and James at home. The house will not be empty yet." Sarah was 14 and showing signs of becoming a remarkable young woman, kind and intelligent with a quick wit that kept everyone entertained. James was 12 and had finally started to outgrow some of his mischievous tendencies, though he still kept them on their toes. The ranch was more successful than ever. Owen's horses sought after across multiple states. As Selena entered her 40s, she sometimes marveled at the life she had built. There were crow's feet at the corners of her eyes and threads of silver in her dark hair, marks of time and experience. But when she looked in the mirror, she did not see the exhausted, hopeless young woman who had scrubbed floors at Harker's trading post. She saw someone who had survived, who had thrived, who had built something beautiful from the ashes of despair. Owen aged too, his dark hair going gray at the temples, his face gaining new lines. But to Selena, he was as handsome as the day he had walked into her life. More so, perhaps, because now she knew him completely, knew the depths of his kindness and strength and love. On a cool evening in October 1896, they sat together on the porch as they had done countless times over the years. The children were inside, Sarah reading to James, even though he insisted he was too old for such things. The sounds of their voices drifted through the open window, a comforting backdrop. "You ever think about what would have happened if things had been different?" Selena asked. If you had never walked into that trading post, or if Harker had not agreed to sell the contract. Sometimes, Owen admitted, but not often. I try not to dwell on roads not taken. The path we ended up on brought us here to this moment, and I would not change that for anything. I used to have nightmares about Harker, Selena confessed. For years after we married, I would dream that the contract was not really torn up, that he would come and drag me back. But I have not had those dreams in a long time now. I think I finally believe, deep down, that I am really free. You are free, Owen said firmly. You have always been free, even when Harker tried to claim otherwise. He could put you in chains, but he could never own who you are inside. Still, you gave me the means to escape those chains, Selena said. That matters. We saved each other, Owen said, repeating a conversation they had had many times over the years. I was alone before you, Selena. Successful, maybe, but alone. You gave me a family, a real home. We are even. Selena smiled and leaned against him, feeling his arm come around her shoulders. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. 19 years of marriage had taught them that sometimes the best conversations happened without words, in the simple act of being together. The turn of the century brought changes. Oliver finished his veterinary studies and returned to Bentonville in 1899, setting up a practice that quickly became successful. He treated not just horses but all manner of animals, and Owen was immensely proud of his son. Sarah met a young teacher at church in 1900 and fell deeply in love. The courtship was proper and sweet, and they married in the spring of 1901. James, who had grown into a tall, serious young man, announced his intention to join the army, much to Selena's distress. The country is not at war, Selena protested. Why would you want to join the army? Because I want to see the world, James said. I want to do something important, and the army offers education and opportunities. I will be fine, Mother. Selena wanted to argue, but Owen put a hand on her shoulder, a gentle reminder to let their son make his own choices. So James enlisted, and Selena added him to her nightly prayers, asking God to keep him safe. In 1903, Sarah gave birth to Selena and Owen's first grandchild, a baby girl they named Grace. Holding her granddaughter for the first time, Selena was overwhelmed with emotion. This child represented the continuation of everything she and Owen had built, the legacy of love and freedom they were passing down. Look at what we made, Owen said softly, standing beside her as Grace wrapped her tiny hand around Selena's finger. Not just our children, but this whole family, this whole life. It started with one choice, one moment of deciding to do the right thing, and it has grown into all of this. You think she will know? Selena asked. When she is older, do you think Grace will understand how close her family came to never existing? We will tell her, Owen said. We will tell all of them. Not to dwell on the darkness, but to help them understand the importance of standing up for what is right, of helping people who cannot help themselves. Your story, our story, it matters. It should be remembered. Over the next few years, the family continued to grow. Oliver married a kind woman named Charlotte in 1904, and they had twin boys in 1905. Sarah and her husband had a son in 1906. Even James, stationed in the Philippines, wrote home about a local girl he had met and hoped to marry when his enlistment was up. As Selena entered her 50s, she began to slow down a bit. The garden was smaller than it once had been, and she let hired help handle more of the household tasks. Owen, nearing 60, was still active but spent more time advising Oliver on the ranch operations than doing the hard physical labor himself. They were entering a new phase of life, one focused more on grandchildren and legacy than on building. On their 25th wedding anniversary in 1903, their children threw them a party. It seemed like half of Bentonville showed up, a testament to the respect and affection the McCraes had earned over the years. There were speeches and toasts, stories shared and memories recounted. But the most meaningful moment came later, when it was just family. Oliver stood and cleared his throat, clearly nervous about whatever he was about to say. "I want to say something to my parents," Oliver began. "I have known my whole life that I was lucky, that I grew up in a home filled with love and security. But it was not until I was older that I really understood how unusual that is, how close things came to being very different." He looked at Selena, and she saw tears in her son's eyes. "Mother, you survived something terrible, and instead of letting it make you bitter or cruel, you let it make you kind. You taught us to help people, to stand up for what is right, to see the humanity in everyone. And Father, you showed us what real strength looks like. Not violence or domination, but the courage to do the right thing even when it costs you." Oliver raised his glass. "To the best parents anyone could ask for, thank you for everything you have built, everything you have taught us, everything you are." The toast was echoed around the room, and Selena found herself crying happy tears. She looked at Owen and saw matching emotion on his face. They had built something good, something that would outlast them, and that knowledge was sweeter than any other success. The years continued to pass with increasing speed. In 1908, Selena was 53 and Owen was 61. They had 7 grandchildren now, with another on the way. The ranch was still prosperous, though Oliver was handling most of the operations. Owen spent his days tinkering with projects, mentoring young people interested in horses, and spoiling his grandchildren. One summer afternoon, Selena and Owen took a walk out to the spot where Selena's garden had once been. It was smaller now, manageable for her aging body, but still productive. They stood there in the warm sun, holding hands, and Selena thought back to that Christmas Eve 30 years ago when Owen had proposed in this very spot. "We have had a good life," Selena said. "The best," Owen agreed. "No regrets, none at all." Selena turned to face him, reaching up to touch his weathered face. "I love you, Owen McCrae. I have loved you for 30 years, and I will love you for whatever time we have left." "I love you too, Selena," Owen said, kissing her gently. "You are the best thing that ever happened to me. You made me better than I ever would have been alone." They stood there for a long time, 2 people who had found each other against all odds, who had built a life and a legacy together. The afternoon sun was warm on their faces, and from the house they could hear the laughter of their grandchildren playing. It was a perfect moment, the kind that stays with you long after it has passed. In 1910, Bentonville held a celebration for its 50th anniversary as an incorporated town. As part of the festivities, they honored longtime residents who had made significant contributions to the community. Owen and Selena were among those recognized, not just for their successful ranch, but for their quiet generosity over the years. When they stood on the platform to accept the recognition, Selena looked out at the crowd and was struck by how much had changed since she had first arrived in this town as a child. Bentonville had grown and prospered, evolving from a rough frontier settlement into a real town with schools, churches, businesses. She had grown too, from a trapped young woman to someone who stood here respected and honored. The mayor, a young man who had not even been born when Selena worked at the trading post, gave a speech about the McCraes' contributions. He talked about their successful business, their charitable work, the way they had helped so many people over the years. What he did not know, what almost no one in town still remembered, was where Selena had started. When it was their turn to speak, Owen squeezed Selena's hand and stepped forward. "My wife and I are honored by this recognition," he said, his voice still strong despite his age. "But I want to tell you something that I think is important for folks to understand. 33 years ago, I walked into a trading post in this town and saw a woman being treated as property. She had been trapped by debt and exploitation, with no way out and no hope for the future." A murmur went through the crowd. This was not the kind of story usually told at civic celebrations. "I could have walked away," Owen continued. "It was not my problem, but I had the means to help, and so I did. I bought her contract and tore it up, giving her the freedom that should never have been taken from her in the first place. That woman was Selena, and marrying her was the best decision I ever made." He turned to look at Selena, love clear on his face. "The point of this story is not to make me look good. The point is that we all have opportunities to help people, to stand up for what is right even when it costs us something. Selena taught me more about strength and courage than I ever could have taught her. She survived, she thrived, and she has spent the past 3 decades making this community better." Owen paused, then concluded, "So when you honor us today, remember that we are all just people trying to do right by each other. And the greatest contribution any of us can make is to help someone who cannot help themselves. That is what builds a real community." The applause that followed was thunderous. Many in the crowd were crying, moved by the story they had not known. Selena stood beside Owen, holding his hand, feeling simultaneously exposed and liberated. The truth was out, all of it, and it felt right. After the ceremony, many people approached them to share their own stories of help they had received or given, debts paid or forgiven, kindnesses extended. Selena realized that she and Owen were not unique in their generosity, that there were good people all over trying to make things better. They had just been fortunate enough to find each other. That night, back at the ranch, they sat on the porch in their usual spot. The house was quiet, the grandchildren having been picked up by their parents earlier. It was just the two of them, as it had been so many times over the years. "You think we made a difference?" Selena asked. "Really made a difference, I mean." "I know we did," Owen said. "I see it every day. In our children who treat people with respect. In the people we helped, like Anna, who went on to help others. In this community, which is better because we were part of it. Yes, Selena, we made a difference." "Good," Selena said softly. "That is all I wanted to matter. To be more than just a debt to be collected." "You were always more than that," Owen said. "Always. Even when Harker tried to reduce you to property, even when you were at your lowest, you were still you. Still strong, still kind, still worthy of love and respect. I just helped you see it." They sat in comfortable silence as the stars came out, two people who had weathered decades together and come through stronger for it. They had started as strangers, come together through an act of compassion, and built something beautiful. They had loved, fought, laughed, cried, raised children, and made a life that mattered. As the years went on, age began to take its toll. By 1915, Owen was 68 and his health was declining. His heart was weak, the doctor said, and he needed to rest more, do less. Owen hated the restriction, but he complied for Selena's sake. Selena herself was 60, her joints stiff with arthritis, her hair completely silver. But her mind was sharp and her heart was full. They spent more time together, less time on work and more time just being. They would sit on the porch for hours, watching their grandchildren play, reminiscing about the past, talking about the future they would not see but hoped for anyway. Owen liked to tell stories about the early days of the ranch, making Selena laugh with tales of stubborn horses and building disasters. Selena would remind him of the first time he had kissed her, how nervous he had been despite his usual confidence. In the spring of 1916, Owen had a significant heart episode. The doctor was called, and he told Selena privately that Owen did not have much time left. Selena received the news with the stoic strength she had learned over a lifetime of challenges, but inside she was breaking. The thought of a world without Owen was almost incomprehensible. She told him the truth when they were alone, because they had always been honest with each other. "The doctor says your heart is giving out," Selena said, holding Owen's hand as he lay in their bed. "He says it could be days or weeks, but not longer." Owen nodded slowly. "I figured as much. I am ready, Selena. I have lived a full life, a happy life. I have no regrets." "I am not ready," Selena said, her voice breaking. "I cannot lose you. You will never lose me," Owen said gently. "I will always be with you, in your memories, in our children, in everything we built together. Death is just the next journey, and I am not afraid." "You should be here," Selena insisted, tears streaming down her face. "You should be here to meet more grandchildren, to see the ranch continue to grow old with me." "I am old," Owen said with a slight smile, "and I have been blessed beyond measure. Selena, my beautiful Selena, you were the adventure of my life. Loving you, building a life with you, that was the greatest gift I ever received." Over the next 2 weeks, the family gathered. Oliver came every day, bringing Charlotte and the twins. Sarah arrived with her children. Even James, now stationed stateside, managed to get leave and made it home. They took turns sitting with Owen, sharing memories, saying the things that needed to be said. On a quiet evening in May, with the windows open to let in the spring breeze, Owen McCrae passed away peacefully. Selena was holding his hand, and their children surrounded them. His last words were, "I love you," directed at Selena with a final squeeze of her hand. The grief was overwhelming. Selena had lost her parents, had endured the trauma of indentured servitude, had faced countless challenges over her 61 years. But nothing had prepared her for the hollowness of losing Owen. He had been her partner, her love, her best friend for 38 years. The house felt empty without him, the ranch diminished. But Selena was strong, had always been strong even when she did not feel it. She leaned on her children and grandchildren, letting them support her through the darkest days. And slowly, very slowly, she found a way forward. She stayed on the ranch, which was now managed jointly by Oliver and Sarah's husband. She kept her small garden and spent time with her grandchildren, passing down the stories of their grandfather and the values he had lived by. She made sure they knew the whole story, from the trading post to the torn contract to the life they had built together. On what would have been their 40th wedding anniversary in 1918, Selena walked out to the spot where Owen had proposed. She sat down on a bench that Oliver had built there as a memorial, and she talked to Owen as though he could hear her. "I miss you," she said softly. "Every day, every moment. But I am grateful too. Grateful for the time we had, for the love we shared, for everything you gave me. You saved me, Owen, not just from Harker, but from a life without love, without purpose. You saw me when I was invisible, valued me when I was considered worthless. You gave me freedom, and then you gave me everything else." She sat there for a long time as the sun set, remembering. The cowboy who had walked into a trading post and changed a life. The man who had bought a contract and torn it up. The husband who had loved her faithfully for nearly 4 decades. The father who had raised their children to be good people. The grandfather who had delighted in the next generation. As the stars began to emerge, Selena stood slowly, her joints protesting the movement. She looked up at the sky and smiled through her tears. "Until we meet again," she whispered. "I love you, Owen McCrae, forever and always." Selena lived for 7 more years, dying peacefully in her sleep in 1925 at the age of 70. In those final years, she was surrounded by family, by the legacy she and Owen had built together. She saw James marry his sweetheart and have children of his own. She held great-grandchildren and passed down the family stories to a new generation. She made sure that no one ever forgot where they had come from and what it had cost to get there. When Selena died, she was buried next to Owen on a hill overlooking the ranch. Their headstones were simple, bearing their names and the dates of their lives. But underneath Owen's name, Selena had requested an inscription before she died. He saw a woman where others saw property, and gave freedom where others demanded servitude. And under her name, her children added, "She survived, she thrived, she loved. Her strength built a legacy that will endure." The ranch continued for generations, run by their descendants who never forgot the story of how it began. The tale of the trading post owner who called a young woman his indentured servant, and the cowboy who bought her contract and tore it up, became family legend. It was told to each new generation as a reminder of the power of compassion, the importance of standing up for what is right, and the enduring strength of love. Oliver eventually retired and passed the ranch to his sons, who ran it with the same principles their grandfather had instilled. Sarah's children became teachers and doctors, carrying forward the value of service. James's military career was distinguished, and he credited his parents' example for his own dedication to protecting others. The town of Bentonville, Arkansas grew and changed over the decades, eventually becoming a significant city. But in the local historical society, there remained records of Owen and Selena McCrae, their contributions to the community, and the remarkable love story that had started with an act of decency in 1877. Their story was one of hope in the face of despair, of love conquering exploitation, of two people finding each other against impossible odds and building something beautiful together. It was a reminder that a single choice, a single moment of deciding to do the right thing, could change lives in ways that echoed through generations. The contract that once bound Selena Thorne in servitude was long gone, scattered as dust on the wind. But the freedom Owen McCrae gave her and the love they built together endured. It lived on in their descendants, in the values they passed down, in the community they helped build. It was a legacy measured not in money or property, but in lives touched, in kindness extended, in love freely given. And it all started with a cowboy walking into a trading post, seeing a woman who needed help, and having the courage and compassion to do something about it. That was their story. That was their legacy, and it was beautiful.